Hello, hello. How's it going, guys? Can y'all hear me okay? Can y'all see me okay? Welcome in, Olave. I'm doing good, bro. How are you? Hello, Schofield. Welcome in, everybody. I had a fun little idea for tonight's stream. Yes, see and sound very hot. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it. But I thought today we could do something fun and bust a whole bunch of the crypto myths. All of the stuff that people love saying or thinking in crypto that are really just a whole bunch of bullshit. And a fun little one to start with. Let me just fix this up real quick and then we'll get started. All right. So, the coming in hot with some trades too. Yeah. We'll go over some charts here in a minute too, and see what we can't trade. But the first little myth I'd like to bust today is that people always tell you about compounding, right? Oh, the real money in trading is in compounding, exponential growth. That's never gonna happen. It still exists, but not in the way that most gurus who want you to pay them money will tell you that it exists. Instead, what ends up happening is most people expect that when they get good at trading that they're going to see this happening, right? Obviously. Right? But they're going to exponentially grow forever, right? And that curve is just going to get bigger and bigger, and oh, we're going to go from 1,000 to 1,000,000 in whatever time frame. Thank you for the follow, Dusty, Gussie, for Sofa and Junk. Appreciate you guys. But that's kind of the idea that's sold by trading gurus, right? It's that if you trade, you're going to grow exponentially, and just buy my course. But the reality is there is some compounding that happens, but realistically it doesn't move in a curve like this. Instead, what trading ends up being like is most trades are kind of flat, right? This is more likely what you're going to see your portfolio do if you're doing it right. And that sounds really weird. Like why would we want this? Well, in reality, right, over this period, maybe, say this is the course of like 6 months, right? And your portfolio is just kind of slowly grinding up into the right, and maybe you started at, we'll call it, maybe you started at 10,000, and now after all this trading, in 6 months you're sitting at, call it 14. Let's just do 15 because it's easy, right? 50% in 6 months is obviously still fantastic, if we're talking percentage terms, but for the sake of it, let's just say this is how it goes, right? What's not happening here is we're seeing crazy compounding, but what really ends up happening here is that most trading is relatively flat. So like I said, 50% is already kind of on the upper end of that. But when we're talking about where the real gains come from and where that actual compounding comes in, it comes in after that when the real opportunity comes. So realistically, what's going to happen is you're going to trade for a while sideways, and then a big opportunity comes, and then you're going to go back to trading sideways. Now, over this period, you may get like a 2 or 3x. Obviously, this is not the scale, right? You might say, hey, I got a 2x on this trade, and now my portfolio is, let's just call it 30,000. Again, not the scale. But say you 2x yourself there, right? And then you go back to grinding. Well, what really happened here, the real compounding here, was in the fact that instead of making that 3x or doubling your account, right? Here that would have been 20k, right? So instead of getting crazy vertical compounding, what's really just going to happen is if you just have more capital to work with, when those real opportunities come, you're just going to make more money. So the 2x here is equivalent to a 3x before, right? So compounding does exist, but it's not nearly as extreme or as fluid as people make it out to be, right? So supposing, let's use me as an example here, right? On this run up, right? I actually didn't have a lot of money back here, right? I started in 2020, in late 2020, missed this entire run up, and then I really just started properly in crypto around here with like $800 or something, if that. And I didn't really make any money in the bull market, and I kind of started getting good at trading in the bear market, but most of my money at that time wasn't coming from trading, because trading is a percentage game. Instead, what I did was I was still working a job. So I was getting fucking $20 an hour at a restaurant, and I would just work at the restaurant and then go home and I would do my trading, and I would get better at trading, and I would slowly grind up. So by the time we got down here, I had 20k to work with, right, instead of 800. And all of a sudden, this entire run up, I got to now, instead of working with, still $1,000 by the time we got here, if I was just going to be trading, I all of a sudden had, or whatever the number, right? I had way more capital to work with, and I could actually buy some things. And all those little compounding effects have now put me in the many hundred thousands. I'm still no millionaire. I don't claim to be. And that's another thing we're going to tackle later on. But when you're consistently just adding capital and you're consistently trading, you're slowly building up that stack. And when those big moves come, where a lot of your gains are going to come from, right? You're just getting substantially more than you would have if you didn't do that, right? So while I would love to tell you, oh yeah, just put your head down, grind, and trade all day, that's generally not effective. So mostly from people who follow me, you would know that, hey, I usually recommend don't quit your job. Just keep working on that shit. and do trading on the side until you get to such an amount that your job's pay becomes kind of irrelevant and your time would be better spent trading, right? And that's going to be another point that we're going to touch on. So in reality, right, I was nicely stacking up here, and that really paid off through these moves, and that paid off here as well, because this move here at 52, I was able to go really heavy with a lot more capital that I'd been stacking up, and I was then able to double that, which again, if I didn't do anything to grow my capital base, I would be making way less money. I wouldn't even have half of what I have now, right? Because it's not about how many dollars you get paid at your fucking job or whatever, right? It's about how much that turns into. So my motto back here, right, and it still kind of is, but my motto really throughout the bear market and the early bull market is I spent no money, because every dollar I save now or make now is an extra 10 in the future. And that's really been my kind of it's paid off really well, let's put it that way, right? Because it's given me a higher capital base, which again, that compounding does exist, it just doesn't go like this, right? It doesn't go like this, it goes, you grind up, and now you have a higher capital base, and then you get the big moves, and again, you just keep stacking that up. So it does compound over time, but it's a much lengthier process, and you're not going to see it just from trading a few trades. Right. Hey, Pigeon, great streams lately. Can we look at the Solayer chart later? Could be the next generational short. That does sound fun. We can definitely have a look at that. So yeah, in trading, most of your profits are not going to be some exponential vertical curve, right? It's going to be a lot more lumpy. And really, the more cash you can stack and the more capital you can stack, or when those big opportunities come, and you do need to go big when those opportunities come, but if you're able to do that, that's where the real money is. Right? It's not in day-to-day trading. Most of that's just going to be pretty flat. Like a really fucking good return for like active trading is like 20% a month. And anyone claiming they double their account in 3 days or whatever, they're gambling. They are not proper traders. Thank you for the follow. Oh, appreciate it. So, another lovely little lie that you might have heard is that traders can trade anytime, right? And just make a bunch of money. So, he's a professional trader, so he's just gonna come to the chart whenever, gonna go on his 1 minute, and he's just gonna press some magic buttons. He'll have $1,000, and then he's done for the day, right? That's. I remember seeing ads like this back when I had ads, before I had ad blocker. It was like of these fucking dudes in rented Bali apartments or villas, whatever, trying to be like, yeah, I just closed out my trading day after an hour of trading, and I've made X amount of dollars. And they make it seem like, oh yeah, you just come to the chart whenever you want and just press some buttons, and all of a sudden you have money. The reality is much different. Is most of trading is waiting, right? So a big recommendation I give my students, and really anyone who cares to listen, is find something else to do. And that sounds really weird. It's part of why I say don't quit your job, is because you need to have something to do in the meantime, right? Because trading requires what we call patience, and people think patience is like an innate trait, but patience is just how good you're able to distract yourself. Because if I'm pretty patient, but if I look at my futures P&L ticking up and down, up and down, up and down for 3 hours straight, there's not a shot that I let that trade play out. There is not a single universe at which I wouldn't mess with that trade, when the best course of action is likely just to let it be. And the same thing goes for taking trades, right? Most of the time, it's not the right time to enter a trade. It's saying, hey, this looks good. I want to enter if this and this happens. You set up your things, you set up your alerts, right? And then once you get your alert, you place your trade. or maybe you set a limit bid. But most of the time, it's not like, oh, I think Bitcoin's going to go down here, so I'm going to short, right? If I want to short Bitcoin here, which to be fair, I am short on Bitcoin, but I'm going to do it from higher, right? I'm going to say, hey, I want to short there on a retest or whatever, right? And then I want to do this, and I'm going to set my orders or set my alerts and come to my chart then. But that might take literally 2 days. This is the daily time frame. It could take a while, right? So what you got to consider is that we're not, even if we're trading low time frames, right? Sometimes there's just no trades to take. Even when I used to trade 15-minute time frame, right? I was very active as a trader. But most of it was like, okay, I entered my trade. Let's play video games for 3 hours while this thing does its thing, right? Now that's a life I like, but it's not like I'm just gonna press a few buttons and then magically have $3,000 in my hands like 30 minutes later, right? That's just not the reality, right? So a lot of it's waiting for good setups, and then waiting for your entry, and then waiting for your targets or your invalidation, right? But most of it's just waiting, and you need to figure out what to do in the meantime. So the myth there is that you can just trade anytime and just make a bunch of money. That's just not reality, right? So what is reality as a trader? Wait. You just wait over and over and over again. Yeah. I hope that kind of makes sense. Now, another fun little one is this is a very unique thing to crypto. This is not so much even a trading thing, but for some reason, I think crypto is the only place in the world where if you said you had $1 million, people would call you poor. Like I've like talked to a lot of traders. I've had thousands in my communities. I think I can count maybe on 3 hands. I can count the amount of millionaires that actively participate, or I should say multi-millionaires. But like, most people are not millionaires. Most people don't even have 100,000 in their board, right? Now they absolutely exist, right? But again, it's a very small portion of people that are millionaires, right? Like, I'm not a millionaire. Fox is not a millionaire. I don't know about Daniel for the people in the thing. I know Nico is, Wiz is, but even within our team, not everyone is a millionaire, right? And I don't think anyone doubts our abilities as traders. That's why we're in the position we are in, right? It's why Wiz brought us on. Yet in crypto, right? If you tell someone, oh, he's only got $1 million, like that's kind of the vibe. When if you actually were to pull this shit, right? I bet you anything that you would probably find 50% of people sitting between like 1 to 50,000, right? If not more than 50% of people. That might even be 80% of people. Because the reality is, most people don't have that much money to play with, right? And I think because crypto has such a way about it to just make anyone rich for a moment, I think we find that people are very they don't value money in the same way that a call it a normal person would. So when we're talking about how much money you have in crypto, it's best not to compare yourself to others, mostly because people just lie about that shit. Because they all want to seem like they're better than they are, so they try to hide. They try to pretend that they're richer than they are, right? Because that's kind of the way you get validated here. But again, the people you see even on crypto Twitter, right? That would be millionaires, right? Those are the top 0.001% of people, right? That's like peak survivorship bias, right? The people who come up there, like those, it makes it seem easy, but it's really just like the. So it's good if you made nearly 30K in 1 year while still learning. That's fantastic, man. Especially because I know, especially that you're not sitting in like America or whatever. I don't know, but you basically made a like the average salary or the median salary, right? What you could expect to make in a year working a full-time job in Europe is less than 30K, right? If we averaged out across Europe. In like the richer parts, it's about 30K, like 34. So if you're sitting in a poorer part of the world and you're making 30,000 in a year, don't let anyone fucking tell you that you're doing a bad job, especially not while you're learning. I think that's fucking beautiful, bro. And the best part is if you don't gamble with that shit and you just treat it right, you manage your risk, and you don't treat money like it has zero value, then you will absolutely be able to grow that. And you'll be able to do 50K to 100K next year if you do it right. And that's kind of what we go for. So I think that's fucking beautiful that you made nearly 30K in a year, especially because I know you're not in the rich parts of the world, because I know America is definitely skewed more to the upside. Yeah. You can actually see. What is the average salary in the US? Yeah, it's about 70,000 a year, right? So the US is very inflated compared to literally anywhere else in the world. So it's about twice of Europe. But yeah, that's not bad at all, man. Thank you. You need to stop listening to Twitter and stuff. Makes you think it's a little amount. Absolutely, man. Like the people on Twitter are just like they're full of shit, bro. It's like the people who actually have that money, like I said, it's survivorship bias. The reason you see them is because they got that big, right? But there's thousands upon thousands of people who didn't get there, right? Because this is another big thing. Is other than that, everyone makes you it makes you feel like everyone's a millionaire, but the reality is 95% of people who try trading, they lose, right? That's the statistic you see. Yeah, people don't seem to internalize this, right? Thank you for the follow, Real. Appreciate it. So when we see those people on Twitter, those are the peak of the peak, right? I am literally in like the top 1% of traders, right? Even out of those 5 to 10% of people who don't lose, most of them are not highly profitable, right? But a big reason behind this is simply because people don't learn, right? People come to the markets with the most like, oh yeah, I bet I could do this mindset, right? It's kind of like dudes when they say, if it came down to it, I could land a plane or I could beat a bear in a fight. Except here, it's not like we inherently know that that's like a difficult thing to do. For trading, everyone's just like, yeah, I could do that. I could do that. And then they do it. And then they get fucked. They get humbled. And then they get sent home crying with a lot less money than they started with. And that's very simply because people don't learn how to do it right. Now, that does mean it makes my job easier because there's more people to take money from, I guess. But at the end of the day, like, to be better than 90% of the people in this market is really not that difficult. Hey Pigeon, thanks for these streams. I wanted to ask you, how much do you weigh macro conditions like company earnings and CPI in your overall analysis? I know Foxy never follows these. Yeah, so I actually spoke about this today to my students, but I do not weigh macro too much. There's one thing I weigh in macro, and that is what we call global liquidity, which is just how much money is in the system. So if the Fed and the PBOC so the People's Bank of China and the Federal Reserve, if they are essentially printing money, buying assets, pushing money into the wider world economy, into assets really, ends up being the case, then assets usually go up, especially things that are very liquidity sensitive like crypto. CPI specifically is a part of the equation for liquidity from the US, because CPI is just inflation, right? And inflation and unemployment are the two metrics that the Fed handles. Excuse me. So those are the two things that the Fed kind of handles. And if, say, unemployment gets really bad, then the Fed is likely to stimulate the economy to push unemployment higher, right? So by looking at unemployment and CPI, some people get some idea of what the Fed might do, right? FOMC would then be the Fed's actual decisions, and they give bigger guidance on that. So that's like the tier above CPI and unemployment. But I would say like company earnings. I mean, I'm not a stock guy, so I can't really speak too much on company earnings. But what I can tell you is that things are usually priced in, and what we mean by that is like, okay, the news is already in the price, so the macro is already in the price. But how that helps us actually is if we ignore the news and we just look at our chart, right? Well, what are we seeing now, right? We saw on Bitcoin that this topped out, right? We saw on the weekly time frame that this was topping out. We saw it on the daily. We saw it coming, right? Wiz was able to do it through his methods. Me and Foxy, or I don't know where Foxy got out, but I know, like, I got out around the highs. Okay, I'm getting an internet thing. Hold up. Can y'all still hear me? Hello, Gioni. God damn it. All right, that's annoying. Okay, you guys can still hear me? Okay, then we're good. Thought it was lagging out for a second. Yeah, I lagged out. I think it's good now. Yeah, price action was affecting my connection. Yeah, I think that's what it was. No, but as I was saying, that basically news events are priced into the market, right? So usually you will see, even ahead of news, it's kind of crazy. Like you will see the chart kind of reflecting it. Is it lagging again? Okay, I think my fucking Twitch stream manager is just dying on me. Okay, it looks fine. What I was saying is usually we actually see the price action, the charts, reflecting things before we would really even see them in news, which is kind of crazy. But in this case, right, what happened here is we saw Bitcoin popping out back in Jan, and we were able to kind of play that and get out. And now what we see is a whole bunch of negative reasoning of why price went down, right? But we could already see in the chart that it was likely to do so. So, okay, is it lagging the fuck out? I think that's just me then. Hold up, let me see if I can't fix up my internet. Like change what I'm connected to. All right. Is that working? Test. I switched to a different internet. Hoping that helps. Great. Perfect. Yeah, it seems to be loading quicker here now too. So, as I was saying, usually we see that news is already showing somewhat in the charts before it even happens, right? So we see sentiment is now really bearish, right? We start seeing all this stuff happening that makes us think, okay, maybe the markets are going to go down, right? Maybe the economy isn't doing as well as we thought, or maybe we're not going to get money printing as quick as we thought, right? But we could already see that in the charts. And that's the beautiful thing about price action trading, is that when we look at news or like macro, what we're trying to do is we're trying to speculate about what the economy might do, or what news might happen where we have no edge, because most people at least don't have insider information, or not the senators. And then when those happen, right, we get the information at the same time. So even if it is new and relevant, it kind of just already happens. But if we're trading we're trying to basically then speculate on what might happen based on different things where we have no real edge, because everyone gets the same information. And then we have to kind of predict what people might do, and then the market might do based on that. But when we're looking at charts, right, what we get is we have a chart, and then we have the outcome. Because the chart is literally people's actions. We no longer have to speculate on what people might do that would then impact price, right? Instead, we get people's actual actions, right? Because if I were to now sell a million Bitcoin on market, that's going to move this chart, right? And that's going to reflect in that chart, and charts have a certain behavior to them that you can trade, you can recognize. Yeah, I'm glad to see that's working good now. You're the first Dutch who spelled real good Albanian surname. Hell yeah. Glad I didn't fuck it up. Yeah, it's this is just kind of my perspective on the market, right? So while I do keep macro in mind, specifically global liquidity, right? What is the general trend going to be here in terms of, are we going to see money flowing in or out of the economy? That's going to give us a good vibe on general trends. So like back in 2021, right? They started quantitative tightening. They started pulling money out of the system, right? That's the way to think about it. And prices came down. Then here in Jan 23, they bailed out some banks and did some sneaky business to put some more money in the system. And then actually the Bitcoin ETF that launched around there also put more money into Bitcoin system specifically. And we saw this with stocks too, where actually almost all of this pump is just from the big tech stocks of like basically an AI investment bubble, right? So I would say that generally the macro is somewhat relevant, right? And understanding what's fundamentally happening can help us gain some understanding and gain some confidence in some of our trades. Because if we understand that fundamentally, right, it made sense for a specific move to happen, and the charts also support it, we can actually go bigger on that trade because we have a higher conviction in it. Right? Thanks for your insight. Do you think max fear is priced in, as in on Liberation Day we will see a relief rally because markets like certainty, similar to what happened with with all the fear leading up to the Russia-Ukraine war, then pump right after? That's possible. Yeah, markets definitely don't like uncertainty. So if they know what to expect, like exactly, it's going to be easier for them to price correctly. And you're going to get less chop, right? What I will say is, like, at the end of the day, whether it's going to bounce or dump, right? Again, that's trying to predict what might happen coming out of a news event where I don't have an edge. But what I can do is say, hey, what does the chart say is likely? Which for the time being, Bitcoin is likely to continue down a little bit. Now, maybe we get a little relief there and then continue down, but for the time being, right, this is headed down, right? The same thing goes for this token and that token, and even hype, I'm expecting is going to trade into the lows here. though I do think it could get a nice bounce on the liquidity sweeps. I think this is actually an interesting area to maybe take some little to start scaling into some little longs as it keeps taking out its lows. But all in all, I'm being pretty cautious across the board. I'm taking little trades here and there. Let me see. Yeah, so this is actually something I'm going to take a little nibble on. Fuck. Why? Why does it say I can't? Maybe. So confused. Oh my god, it's lagging. Why are you focusing on M2 money supply and not M1? So there's a whole bunch of different metrics for it. M2 is not even the broadest one, but M1 is, I think, like the least broad definition of cash, of money, really. But yeah, you're gonna see. Usually M2 is what's used by many people to kind of get a general idea of cash pumping into the markets or just into the economy. Now, global liquidity is not directly just global M2, but yeah, you're gonna have some like M1 is just a less broad version. I don't have a very particular reason. I just like M2 is what the people who do macro used, so I'm gonna use that for my shit, right? Again, I'm not a macro guy. I'm a trader guy. I like to use these things to explain economic phenomena, but the bigger thing is just like it's nice to have a reason behind things, right? If something happens in the market, what is the first question people ask? Why? Sometimes there's not a why, but it's always nice because we humans love to know a why, right? That's very important to us. And having these things to helps explain things and helps that why. Yeah, logic is basically M2 increases, markets will see more money, hence positive, and vice versa. Yeah, something like that. Now, the thing is, M2 is always increasing to a certain extent. Like, save for this one period here in for the first time in history where it went from Jan 22 to really call it July 23. It actually went down for the first time in history. So like I said, M2 is not a direct thing for global liquidity. I usually just use this to explain that the fact that the S&P doesn't actually make much money. It just stays kind of flat. But that's a topic for another day. QT times that decrease. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, it's I'm not sure because US cannot stop printing. This is a given. Yeah, I mean, they have to print again at some point. It's like the way the system works. You think we see some fuckery tomorrow night with the quarterly close? We always see some fuckery. But let's see specifically with the quarterly close. Let's see what that's looking like. I mean, I think it's kind of a relatively neutral one. I would imagine with a big close, yeah, we're going to see some happen. But it looks like we're just going to get a neutral close on the monthly as well. I don't think it's going to be too crazy. I think we're going to... I mean, there's always going to be some increased volatility. So feel free to be like, hey, I'm just not going to take like super low time frame trades. But I would say overall, it's not going to be crazy on the risk. All right. Now, on the topic at hand, yeah, but you are correct that the U.S. is not like the way their system works is they have to service their debt somehow, and the U.S. is not currently in a position, even with Doge, to really get their deficit down. At least like they are spending just as much as they're cutting, so it kind of just cancels each other out, and they're not really making any progress from what I've seen. Maybe that changes, but no. Sorry. So maybe that changes, but for the time being, they're in a big ass deficit, and that's not changing. And they're going to keep getting more and more debt, and U.S. debt is becoming less reliable, and the global world, redundant, but the world is becoming less global and less trustworthy of each other, right? More politically divided, and there's a lot of tension going on, so there's just going to be less interest in U.S. debt, and they need to somehow service that debt. And what's really going to see, what you're going to see is the U.S. basically has to print to service that debt. It has to basically debase their own currency, reduce the value so that they can pay it back, right? So, because if you print a whole bunch of dollars, right, you're just creating more of them. You cause inflation because the value of assets and goods doesn't actually change that much, right? When you have inflation, it's not because eggs are suddenly more valuable, right? It's because eggs still have the same value, but now people have more dollars to offer for the same eggs, right? That's the basic idea. Though in the current world, we also have, obviously, companies just having bigger profits than ever because they can just use the idea of inflation to up their pricing. Yeah, the de-dollarization is something we're probably going to see happening. It's why you're we're getting like a bigger push for nationalization, whatever. Or that a bit. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind as well. More global turmoil. So I think markets will still exist, but they're going to print again at some point, and printing is just good for markets because it basically just almost goes one-to-one with the markets, which is a fun little thing. People love to be like, oh yeah, if you just invest in the stock market, you'll get rich or you'll make a bunch of money over time. The reality is that the S&P, right, while it goes up and to the right on the regular chart, if you just divide it by USM2, which is the not even the broadest form again, but it's just a measure of the money in the system and the money they're printing. If you just divide those two, all of a sudden you see that, hey, whenever they print money, it's kind of at a very similar rate to the point at which the S&P goes up. So for now, we're seeing one of the first pumps going out of that. But in 2000, it was at a higher ratio, at a higher valuation, essentially, than today. In the highs of 2007, we're at a similar rate as we had back here in October 2023. Or maybe just July 2023. Right, and this is a fun little chart that I like to show people because at the end of the day, they're printing so much money, and the majority of that is just goes back into assets. It's why assets are so fucking good to hold, because all it does is just keeps going up because they keep printing money, right? But there's very little real value creation in a lot of this. But that's just a fun little tangent. Now, another fun little myth, and we kind of added on this a little bit, but given the current weakness in U.S. markets, have you changed how USD versus Euro stables you hold? Yeah, I would lean actually a little bit to holding some Euro stables, and I do live in Europe, so it's pretty easy for me to hold euros. I would say currently I would expect this to actually fall a bit here, and which is surprising because I would usually imagine that on this chart that the US was going to go down, but I guess it looks for now that the euro is probably going to pull back again. Maybe trade a little bit higher, but at the end of the day, it's within this downtrend, and until that changes, I'm not really too big on euros. Right, this is just the Euro USD chart. For the time being, this is not any strong uptrend. It's not flipping any major supports. I would expect the euro to keep underperforming the dollar for the time being. And again, that can change based on macro or whatever else. But we'll see that happen on the chart if it does. So I don't really hold much in terms of euros now. I have like a little bit in my bank, but that's mostly been to pay taxes and shit, which I still need to do. But yeah, I don't hold crazy amounts of euros right now, no. And I think that'll change maybe if we see this chart change, but that's not the case right now. Yeah. All right. Glad that answers your question. So, what I was going to say is we mentioned something similar earlier, but another common misconception or myth is that you need to gamble to make money with a small account. Because the real misconception here is not that you need to gamble to make money with a small account. It's the misconceptions that you need to make money with a small account. Because most people come into this market, maybe they start like me, they got like $1,000 to their name, maybe a couple thousand. And they ask me, or they try to figure out how they can get this to 10,000 or 100,000, whatever. And realistically, it is very simple how you get this to 10,000. A job, a job. Because at the end of the day, if you are trading with this, right, there's two ways to do it. You can gamble, and maybe you make a bunch of money, and then you lose it all, right? I've seen people go from low 5 figs to 700,000 and back down to zero. Because now you might say, oh, well, I could keep that. Realistically, you're not going to know when to stop, right? So at the end of the day, like, people learn to trade in a very bad way because they start gambling and then they think they're good and they're going to lose everything and then want to kill themselves. See it happen time and time again. So that's option one, right? Is gamble and maybe kill yourself if you do too well and then nuke it all to zero. Option two is to just learn trading properly. But the thing is, if you learn trading properly, right? Like I said, if you're really fucking good at trading properly, you're gonna look at 20% a month. So you're telling me I gotta go for however many fucking months, years upon years to get this to the time the point I'm trying to get to, right? We should be talking about, even if you supposedly like compound that, as we said, it's just not realistically how that happens. But even if we suppose you did 20% a month, we're talking about, let's just call it 200 for the sake of it, right? We're talking about, you're going to make an extra couple thousand a year if you do really fucking well, right? It's just not worth your time, right? But what is worth your time is learning how to trade. But then what you do with all your other time is you work a job. Now, this is easier in the Western world, right? If you're in Europe or in the US especially, right? You can get paid, guess what? Fucking $20 to $40 an hour, depending on where you work. And guess what? You can make a whole fucking lot more than a couple thousand in a year. It's very fucking easy to get that kind of number up to 10K if you just work a job. And you just don't spend the money from that job. Now, obviously, if you're going to have bills, right, that's going to be tough. But what can you do? You get 8 roommates if you need to, right? You do whatever the fuck you can to not pay those bills, right? Or to pay as little on those bills as possible, right? You learn to cook for yourself, even if it's going to take time, right? Because you're in the season of learning, not the season of earning, right? All you're trying to do is build up your base while you learn how to do it right. And then you can build up, even through doing that, you can build up to 100K with relative ease. Again, this from a Western perspective. If you are in a poorer country, right? If you're in South America and Africa, parts of Southeast Asia, or most of Southeast Asia, right? You're probably not going to be able to get a job for $40 an hour, right? But what you can do is you can learn a skill, and you can sell that skill to, you just learn English and you sell that skill to Americans online, right? I'm Dutch. I'm selling to, I teach Americans how to trade, right? Kind of same thing, right? And all of a sudden, you can live in a country where the average person makes $30 a month and pays a couple cents for their utilities, and you can be making thousands. You can make five figures a month pretty easily. Yeah. Like if you do it right, I mean that's obviously like its own hustle, right? Its own work, but you can very much get to that point. And guess what? If you now have 10K to trade with, that same 20% a month, you're not talking about 2,000 a year again anymore. You're talking about 20,000 a year, right? And more. And that's only going to scale, right? If you're trading with 100,000, right? Because you keep stacking it up, all of a sudden you're making fucking you could make 200,000 a year. Obviously, like I said, 20% a month is kind of a ridiculous number, especially if you're trading with 100K. But this is kind of the idea, right? It's not about how do I turn 1K into 100,000 using my meme coin or my trading prowess, right? It's how can I use my skill, get the most, learn a skill, right? That I can get paid the most per hour for. You just trade your time for money, right? You just try to trade it for more. And you don't focus on how can I do this in the next 30 days? You focus on what is the process that I can do every day for the next 5 years, whether it works out or not, and you push, right? You just try to get better every day, and you'll get there. You pay tax, bro? Yes, I pay tax. What do you mean you pay tax, bro? I'm a normal fucking person. What do you mean, do you pay tax, bro? Do I like that I pay tax? No, I don't go outside. I don't use their infrastructure, bro. What am I paying it for? I don't know. I'm gonna do my best to not pay that much, but I do pay tax. Sir, I worked for $300 a month. Thank God for you and Fox. Yeah, I mean, like that's the reality, right? And if you play your cards right and you learn a skill that you can sell to businesses, right? Don't try to sell a product, just sell B2B services, right? Or you could do B2C services, but you're not going to be able to sell that online as easy, right? And you just do something that people would pay money for, right? Is it going to make them more money? That's usually a good thing, right? Commit homicide, but not evasion or avoidance of tax. Why would you kill people? Brother, what? If I live in America or UK or somewhere, I would work so much. Here you work for 10, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, for $75 to $125 a month. Yeah, exactly, bro. It's like, it's tough. Yeah, it's ridiculous what you'd be getting paid there, in these countries, right? But that's why I say, like, if you do, say, a service business, right? Say you learn how to do video editing, right? Just an example, right? And you go to some influencer, a random, even crypto influencer. Let's just use that example. And you tell them, hey, I made these fucking edits for you for your community to help you with marketing, right? And you go make edits for them. You show them to this guy. You don't ask him for anything up front. You just say, hey, do you like this, right? And eventually you're going to find someone, and you obviously want to pick who you're going to do it for. You don't want to pick someone who doesn't have a business or anything. But if you have something that is going to help bring more people to this guy, which is going to bring more customers to him, the chance that you can say, hey, I can do this for you, and I make you a clip every day or whatever, and you can ask him for $1,000 a month, right? Depending on what he gets out of it, right? But that's kind of the thing. Like, you don't need, like, one person can pay you thousands depending on what you offer, as long as it brings in more money. Now, maybe you do 10 people at $300 a month, right? But for an American, right, who runs a business, especially, right? Say Weekly Wisdom, right? We have 2,000 paying members ish, from $30 to $70 a month, right? At that point, 300 is not crazy to pay someone at all, especially not if they're bringing in more customers. And you get 10 customers, you could just fucking ask them, right? And you're going to get a lot of no's. Again, if you live in these countries and you're able to get 10 customers at 300 a month, which again is not that crazy at all for something like video editing, you're able to make more than almost everyone in your country, right? You're able to do what? You said 75 to 125 a month, I don't know. Like you're talking about fucking 30 times the 30 times the income. Yeah. But yeah, tax business is very serious in the West. Yeah, you're right. Okay, I get it now. Yeah, thank you for the follow, wobbly knees and icy veins. Appreciate it. My first portfolio goal is to get to 100K. If I could make 5 to 10% a month and compound, that would be amazing. Yeah, so like the goal is just set up your account, learn risk management above everything else, because you just get infinite shots on goal. Don't aim for fucking quick gains. Like getting rich quick just never pays off, right? But if you just keep at it, you will go faster than you could have imagined if you do it right. And yeah, just do what you can to not spend money, get more money for your time, and then learn skills like how to trade markets, how to understand what the general trend is of markets at least, so that you know how to invest in those, right? And if you own assets and you continuously invest in markets that tend to go up and to the right, you're going to make money, right? And you're going to do better than 90% of people in this world. Because the average person does not invest in assets, right? Like I'm a trader, but I got to explain assets to my parents, right? And we're fairly well off, right? But outside of like a retirement fund or whatever that's managed by other people, they don't do anything with it, right? The average person doesn't go there, right? And that's why when you see the current economic situation in the world, right, we're seeing the average person is struggling, right? They can't afford their shit anymore because prices went up 40%, but their wage went up 3%, right? But the people who owned assets during the last 5 years, they're fucking sitting happy, right? Last couple years here in crypto land, basically anything for the last however many years in stock land. And now this can pull back a lot, right? But you just add to that shit, and it goes higher, right? Because that's the trend, right? And as long as you know basic trading, you're able to time this decently well. You're gonna outperform even the average person who does invest. Sorry. Yeah. So you absolutely do not need to gamble to make money in the markets. You just need to have a longer time horizon, and don't try to turn 1,000 into 100,000 using just trading, because it's a stupid way of doing it, because it's really time inefficient when you can just do some work instead and get paid a lot more. Now, we had a little topic here a minute ago where we talked about how everyone seems to be a millionaire in crypto. Right? Everyone seems to... Hello, El Shawarma. Thank you for the follow. Thank you for the follow, Pulverized. Appreciate it. No, I'm Dutch. I'm not Albanian. I think Gioni is Albanian. Yeah. How to make it all back with one trade meme was so relatable. Feels so dumb reflecting on it. Absolutely. Yeah, that is revenge trading right there. That's the dumbest thing you can do. And it's really hard not to if you lose too much, right? But that's why good risk management is so important. You don't want to get into that position to begin with. But making it all back is not done in one trade, right? It's just done the steady way. The Albanian pigeon, bro. I would run the fucking mafia. I'd be lacing everything with fentanyl. No. I see you're from Belgium. Hell yeah. Foxy's also from Belgium, if you know. Honorary duchies, as we say. Yeah, I touched on earlier the idea that basically everyone in crypto seems to be a millionaire, right? Everyone seems to be rich, and if you don't have at least fucking 10 mil to your name, you're dirty poor and you're underperforming everyone. Now that's obviously not true. But another beautiful thing to this is all of the fake P&L screenshots. Because if I go to my Mexi here, let's do that. Now I don't have the crazy ones anymore. But what I can do here, let me find it. Great. So I need to switch account 1 second. Great. How's that going? Fantastic. So I have this short open here on Magic Eden. And I'm up about, it says 26%, but the important thing here is I'm up about 2.1 grand, 2.1 thousand, right? Now, this is on 2x, so it's moved down about 13% from my current entry there, and I'm up about 2.1. Great. But what I can actually do is if I go to that Magic Eden trade, and all I change is I don't do anything to it, right? All I do is I just nothing about the size changes and nothing about my profits change. But now I just magically set that trade to 100x leverage, and then I conveniently hide the P&L. So now all of a sudden I have this trade that's up 1,300% because I'm such a good trader. The reality is this is still like not a bad trade. You know, I'm up 2.2 grand, but the real thing here is like the profits have not changed at all, right? It's still the same trade, the same profits, but I can just set the leverage higher and get a higher number. Now, this is a fun little trick, is like that percentage. I just need to adjust my margin again a little bit. That percentage doesn't really. That percentage doesn't reflect anything about profits, right? So I could literally open, get this, I could go on Bitcoin, I could go on 400x leverage, and I can open $8 long and $8 short, because that's the minimum order size. So regardless of whether it goes up or down, I don't make or lose any money. But I can now wait a while, price maybe pumps 10% in one direction, and now I all of a sudden have a like 4,000%, or maybe actually way more, 40,000% long, something like that, P&L. But in reality, I've made or lost no money, right? But that screenshot makes it look like I made money, right? So if you see people who only ever post their percentage P&L screenshots, and no like actual trade results, right? A lot of people, like when you see those screenshots, they don't really mean anything, right? If you see me posting one, it's just for fun, like, hey, we won the trade, right? But it doesn't mean anything about how much money someone made on it. The percentage literally means nothing because you can manipulate it so easy. And the trade you just saw, like I'm up, it says 26% because I'm on 2x, right? I've had trades I have a trade open right now that says it's 175%. But it's not even half those profits. That's just something to consider there. Let me see. Lagging a little bit. So I see I saw missed some messages in the chat. I always ask myself how much percent you need to trade and how many position you can maximum open to not get in trouble. So we never risk more than 5% of our account in a trade. So that means I know where my stop loss is before entering a trade, right? I know where I am wrong. And if that hits, I lose no more than 5% of my account, right? So if I'm trading 100K, I lose no more than 5,000. If I'm trading $100, I lose no more than $5, right? That's just the right way to trade. The reason is, if you go higher, you are mathematically fucking yourself, because the lower you go, the harder it is to get back up, right? If I go down 50%, I now need 100% to get back out. But that's basically twice as difficult to get that back as it was to go down there, right? So max 5%. 5% is already on the high end if you have like decent money to trade. And as for how many positions you can open, I would say no more than 10. That's if you're doing like high time frame stuff. If you're doing like very low time frame, like you're doing scalping, you only have 1. If you're doing day trading, you could do maybe 3, right? It's just a matter of like, can you actually keep on top of all of them and not miss the moves or whatever, right? But usually I would say if you're day trading, 3 is kind of a good place. Even for swing trades, I don't tend to go above 5. Only really for like long-term moves, right? Where I'm more like spot positioning, then maybe I'll go up to 10, but even that is kind of on the high end. Because the important thing is not how many different coins can I buy that I can all pump. I would rather put size into a few that I can manage. Foxy ain't Dutch. No, Foxy's an honorary Dutchie. So he's in the Netherlands right now, but he's originally a Belgian. I'm a victim of everything you just said. I haven't killed myself yet, but basically gambled away 250,000 over the last bull run and this bull run. My question to you is, where do I go to learn trading? With all this shit online, honestly, I'm still confused as fuck. Feel free to roast me. I'm definitely not going to roast you. You are in a completely kind of normal situation, which is kind of crazy. But that's the way it is in the markets, right? That's a lot of people do this, and it is something you can work on. Where do you go to learn? I can obviously shill my own shit, so I do teach a few people how to trade every month, and we got a little mentorship coming up in May. And that's worked well. I don't make any promises about profits, right? I just teach how to manage your risk, how to build your own strategy, and trade with a proper framework, and that's worked well for my students. But yeah, at the end of the day, the big thing is just while you're learning, focus on the fact that you're learning. Don't worry about making money. Just try to figure out a strategy that works for you, right? So you're going to say, when this and this happens, I want to take a trade because of this, right? And I can see based on history that this works, right? And that's really the kind of stuff I teach. Yeah. You showed that percentage example with $1. Yeah, I showed both the dollar and the percentage. But you sent me a long message on Weekly Wisdom when I was liquidated from being a dumbass around June. Since then, my RR on my trades was completely different. I'm glad to hear it, bro. I'm glad me calling you a dumbass has turned your trading around. You need to stop having the short-term mindset and get rich quick. Yeah, so like the longer term you focus, like if you just think not in how much money can I make today, this week, this month, if you think how much can I, what can I do in 5-10 years, right? And you just focus on like, let me try to just get better a bit every day, right? In whatever you do, right? This is just general life advice. It's great for business too, right? If you don't think in like, what can I do now, is like, I've achieved more than I could have expected in the past 5 years, right? And I'm very very happy with that, right? But by thinking long term, you're going to just be better off regardless. By all this shit, I mean, there's a plethora of knowledge out there to sift through. Yeah, so everything, like I said, everything I teach as well, is you could learn it yourself. It usually just takes a while because there is a lot of shit to sift through, right? At the end of the day, I can drop a few people. Obviously, my Twitter, I try to share a lot of educational stuff there. But yeah, it's definitely it can definitely be tough. Yeah. But is it per trade 5% or just overall with many positions? Per trade 5%, as long as those are not the same trade, right? If I think Magic Eden goes down because of this pattern, and then I think Bitcoin goes down because of this thing, right? On the same time frame, on the same setup, that's one trade, right? Because it's the same setup. So if one of those fails, it's likely that both fail. So in this case, I would likely opt for shorting Magic Eden based on this instead because it's a shitty alt. Thank you, bro. How can I join the mentorship? I'll pop the little link in the chat, but you can go to there if you click on Get Started, it'll ask you some questions, and I'll shoot you a message and we can talk details if it's a good fit for you. Okay, I got you. That's clear for me. I'm glad it helps, Icy. Yeah, the P&L screenshots are very very deceptive. You can doctor them so easy. One second, I need to check something for my friend, the Foxman himself. Let's see. Righty. Sorry about that. I'm gonna check the link also. I'm Akref in the group, by the way. Hell yeah. In Weekly Wisdom. Nice, man. And we got Omar as well. Hell yeah. Nice to meet you guys. Apparently, I'm talking to Foxy and we're getting scammed. Oh yeah, that's fucked. He was trying out some bit Unix things. It's like it closes in profit, but the P&L is red. Very scammy. But really nice of you to do these streams and do the teaching. Absolutely. But I like doing this shit, and I get to grow my community. Thank you for the follow, cool boy. And then there's more people to teach, and at the same time, I get more students. So there's always a benefit to me as well. But I wouldn't do it if I didn't enjoy it. That's for sure. Do you use the 50 AMA with the 0.618 fib for scalps too, Pitch? So I don't use EMAs, at least not recently. So I do use fibs, but not so much EMAs. And I think at the end of the day, like there's not really a wrong way to trade unless you're losing, I guess. But there's a million different ways that you can find an edge or get a strategy that works in the markets. It's just whatever kind of works for you. One second. Jeez, but my good sir, what do you think of hype? Fundamentally, I think it's strong, but what does the chart say? This is actually something we took a little buy on literally earlier in the stream, right there at 12.26 as we were taking out the low there. I think hype, fundamentally, I do agree it can be pretty strong. I think it's probably going to trend down a little bit more. I would expect us to take out this low, so I'm slowly scaling in here. I think in the short term here, it's probably going to grind down a bit more and then get a nice little bounce where I'm looking to take some profit. I think overall, it is still in a downtrend, but what we'd be looking for is for it to basically say, hey, I'm going to take out this low with a wick and then close the day back above. And then we could get a nice bounce, and if we can basically reclaim above, call it 14.6, then I would expect it to come back up to the highs where we can see probably some fuckery before coming back up. But that would be a nice little double bottom setup that I'd be looking at. So like I'm scaling it a little bit now to have some exposure, but that really is likely going to get cut if we don't hold a nice double bottom here on hype. So the chart basically says we definitely have some decent potential here for some bounces, but we'll have to wait and see how that goes. And we already fucking broke the follower goal. I have to up it, bro. I did not think that when I was gonna do Twitch streams, you know, they always like a big thing on Twitch was that like with 10 viewers or whatever, you're in the top 1%, something like that. I didn't think I'd get the fucking 100 followers this quick. We're almost there already. It's crazy. Crazy, man. Yeah. MB's here. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Glad that answered your question, cool. Yeah. My shorts are fucking printing, bro. Beautiful. Yeah, hypes up a little bit here. I think Elixir is probably due for a bounce as well, so I'm going to close my... Take some profit there. BTC... Yeah, same there. Yeah, I think in the short term we probably get some bounces. It's starting to look like on the charts. Let's see, and right, there's one more little myth that I'd like to cover. But let me do this question from Shawarma first. Not gonna lie, crypto really fucks with your head. Everyone's a fucking millionaire, and I'm still taking L's. It's all a psyop, bro. It's all fake. And the big thing to remember here is, again, the P&L screenshots are fake. No one's really a millionaire, right? There's, again, like 1 in 1,000, maybe. And the biggest thing that you need to remember is that people do not talk about their losses. Whether it's in Weekly Wisdom or on Twitter, right? If someone takes a loss, no one has the idea, hey, I really would like to share this with everyone, right? Because what's the point in sharing, right? You feel like shit about it, and then maybe it lowers other people's opinion of you, which is realistically your head if they're not retarded. But if you're if you take a win, right, big win, what do you want to do? You want to share with everyone, right? So people are way more likely to share their wins than they are their losses for many reasons. Yeah. Pigeon's my favorite millionaire. You can say that when I'm a millionaire. I'm not quite there yet. I hopefully will be soon, but Not quite there yet. Seeing other people's losses really humanizes the whole thing for me and reminds me to check myself. Yeah, I mean, so it's actually nice when people share their losses, but it's just not something humans are inclined to do. Inshallah, very soon. Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. Yeah. Habibi. Yeah. But what I was going to go into was fun last little myth. And that was the sell in May and go away and the Santa rally stuff. Because these are things people love to repeat, but this is kind of just another little thing to do whenever you hear something like this. I might actually come to Dubai, bro. I'm considering it for like sometime in May to check it out if it's not worth spending a year or two there. See how it is. Yeah. But the point is, when we're talking about like the sell in May and go away or the Santa rally stuff, right? People do not ever question it. But well, what we can do is we can just go to our charts and we can say sell in May and go away. Right? So we're gonna mark this. Okay, we sold in May. Price went up. But let's just assume we sold and we waited a while to buy, right? Then maybe this could be good. Who knows? Right, but we're just gonna go through and we're gonna mark all the Mays, right? Well, here I guess if you sold temporarily, it would have been good, but again, if you didn't get back in soon, you would have been fucked, right? Okay, then sell in May. Well, this was in a bear market, so you know, fair enough. You would have made money, right? So let's assume this was here it would have been correct. So let's actually make that green. We'll make these red because they were it would have been kind of bad to sell in May and go away. Right, I guess you could maybe make it work, but realistically, those were not great, you know? And we go back further, right? Sell in May, go. It could have been good here if you sold in May at the start and then got back in. Yeah, that could have been good. Right. So that's 2. Well, what can we do? We find another one. Well, this one would have been fucking horrendous if you didn't get back in time. You would have missed the whole ass bull market. Right, so that's almost 2 fucking massive runs you would have missed. Maybe 3 if you didn't get in. Right. And then, well, we have another one. Wow, okay, you would have missed the entire fucking pump. That sucks. Sucks to suck. And this is really kind of the story here is outside of bear markets. Outside of bear markets, there is no real benefit to doing this. All right. Have a good night, Icy. Thank you for coming. Yeah, I'll let you guys know if I come to Dubai. I'll let you guys know. But like the thing with these like sell in May and go away is it's only really valid in a bear market, right? And like here you would have turbo fuck again and again, and the same thing really goes for something like Santa Rally. Now, what I will say is we can actually I have some data on this. Did the quarterly test, and you know, some quarters do perform better than others. So, if we're looking at the returns per quarter, Q2 is actually the most likely to be positive. Q3 is kind of 50-50. So, like, summer is kind of 50-50. We kind of knew this, right? Summer is usually kind of the bad months. Q4, right? And we'd have December and the Santa Rally or whatever. Can be bullish, but again, it depends on the further market conditions, right? So in bull markets, Q4 is the best fucking time to be around, with the exception of Q1, actually. So people love to talk about, oh, Santa Rally or Q4 is so great, but realistically, it's usually Q1 that has the majority of the gains in bull markets. And if we're talking about even in only in like on average, if we also count bear markets and just all time, then we would expect the best returns to be in Q4. right? So they're both really good. But most people do not do their research. So this is another fun little thing. Um, is I guess the myth here is people just love repeating things that they never fact check, right? And if you fact check shit, which doesn't really take that long, this took like 30 minutes. And now I have data on how well each quarter performs, right? And the fact is, like, sell in May and go away, that took us like fucking a minute to figure out, right? Doesn't work. Unless maybe if in a bear market, but at that point you just sell any time in a bear market and you'll probably be better off. Yeah, even then, like, we would expect Santa Rally is not as big of a thing. Now, obviously, we could specifically check for December 24th. I've not done this. Um, but the big thing is here is just whenever someone tells you something like sell in May and go away, or it's going to be a Santa Rally, just test it. Just go to your chart, look through history, what happened. And maybe they're right. But there's a decent chance they're fucking wrong and someone made it up and they just repeated it because it sounds nice. What's one saying that actually uh, works? It's the trend is your friend until the bend at the end. That one's real. Come to Albania. A page tax doesn't exist here. I will not come to Albania. Thank you very much. I value my life. This is the fucking opinion Western Europeans have of the Balkans. Immediately stabbed. Albania, London, basically the same thing, but you know. Yeah, that's the big thing there is like just test things, right? Price things out. Whenever someone says something. Probably bullshit. Lots of Dutchies buying summer houses around here. Damn. Undiscovered paradise for Western EU, but yeah, I don't actually know much. Like, I saw some. I think my bigger issue is like English speaking. I'd have to learn Balkan languages because there's just, English is just not as prevalent there, from what I understand. I might be wrong, but yeah, like at the end of the day, like I know there's actually some really fucking beautiful places in Eastern Europe. I remember seeing the fucking seeing the Poland propaganda videos, like just visit Poland kind of thing. And it's fucking beautiful. But you know, it's at the end of the day, it's still Poland. Poland is fucked too. What's fucked about Poland though? I heard they kept out all the immigrants. It's just white people. I'm sorry. Um, I know two Dutch families too, but not so safe enough to be honest. To part Tirana, that's the capital. Yeah, I just want coziness, comfy life. Yeah, crime is on the rise. Yeah, Paris is kind of doo doo. I was surprised that when we were in Paris for Weekly Wisdom, I was surprised that it didn't stink. Because I swear it stank the last time. We weren't near the river that much, which probably helped. But I guess some of the river cleaning they did must have helped a little bit in terms of how much their shit stank. The scum all got into Poland too. Damn. I thought Poland they went hard on all of it. Sad. But the UNESCO protected areas are the nice ones. Yeah, that makes sense. Isn't Paris dangerous as shit right now? I mean, to be fair, we were walking around with a fucking giant ass security guard, who was also a driver for Wiz, so that helps. And I mean, even then, like it's all of the danger stuff. At the end of the day, it's all going to be somewhat overblown, right? You could fucking walk into the Golden Triangle and be kind of fine. Um, it's better to not do it, but uh, Netherlands is a beautiful country. I love the Netherlands. Like as a place to live, the Netherlands is great. it would be great if they could get rid of the fucking Moroccan mafia out of all the of the Randstad, but at the end of the day, it's like I think people make the world out to be a much worse place than it actually is. Right now, I'm in Milan, but trust me, you can't go outside at night in the fucking center of the city. Like you can, but be ready to fight a gang of North African. Jesus Christ, bro. In the Netherlands, if you got money, one of the best places to have a family. Even if you like, the beautiful thing of the Netherlands is you don't need to have money. Like, we have fantastic welfare. I was in Rotterdam twice. I liked it so much. Yeah. So like, Rotterdam's a nice fucking place. It's just sometimes a frietend gets a grenade thrown into it. Well, but just on occasion. Like it's gonna be a similar thing to like I know Sweden or whatever was is like a great fucking country, but now you have there's a bit of crime and then there was more like at the start of the year there was more explosions than there were days in the year. I would not go as far as to say the EU is fucked at all. No, I wholeheartedly disagree. Crime is lower than it's ever been. It's just been like, hey, there's fucking mafias, right? There's organized crime, and they need to deal with that shit. Um, but yeah, Maastricht is a beautiful city. Yeah, Maastricht is great. I'm near Eindhoven. Yeah, parts of EU is on the shitter. Yeah, it's lower pitch because they just want to let them do what they want now. Again, I disagree. Uh, I think the intensity of some of it is higher now. I think it's less prevalent. I know where you are. I'm not saying it, bro. Like I'm near Eindhoven. What the fuck are people gonna do with it? Like, I don't post literally. Like, I would love to post pictures of my area. It's fucking beautiful, but uh, it's crazy. Like what people can find off just like the most basic information, and I live in a beautiful area. It's kind of like if you see it, you could easily find where I am, and I don't want that shit. You're sending me nudes and excuse me, because I'm a hot boy. Thank you, but no, thank you. I'm a faithful boy. The only nudes I receive are from my girlfriend. Thank you very much. Yeah, it was kind of crazy to see though. Like I remember watching a YouTube video. Um, it was like it was like the title. This Dutch city proves we can still build. This Dutch town proves we can still build beautiful cities. And I was like, hey, this looks familiar, and it's literally my fucking town. God damn it! Now I need to move. No. Yeah, like this is the one downside. Is like I was considering like if I go to Dubai, I could probably get to that mill a lot quicker because I'm not paying crazy amounts in tax. At least there's no capital gains tax that helps. But I was like, would I really give up this beautiful country for a fucking desert? I was like, maybe. Besides this, I think Denmark is quite worth looking. Or just anything Scandinavian is great. Anything like, and I would call Iceland and the Netherlands honorary Scandinavian countries. Sometimes quality of life is it worth the extra cost. 100% Dubai is a place. Yeah, I'm gonna come visit it. Uh, my business partner lives there. He recently moved there. I'm gonna go check it out. See what's up, and maybe go there for a few years. Because from what I understand, it is just a hub for fucking crypto and business people, and then we just kind of chilling, doing businessing, and then paying jack shit in taxes. Thank you for the follow, Andralit. Andradalit, I guess. Denmark is vibes, wallahi. I would agree. I've been in Denmark. We went to Legoland, bro. Yeah, Dubai is the place. I gotta go give it a shot then, I guess. It's crazy because it's basically the same cost there as in like cities here in the Netherlands, as like Eindhoven or whatever, but it's you just don't pay tax. Like, ridiculous. Uh, yeah. I need to find a home 80 kilometers from the center of the city center of Milan first, because I don't want to pay a fucking liver every month for rent. Second, because I don't want my mom and little bro to see all the scum of the world on their way home. Jesus, bro. Yeah, that's tough. I love the freedom that being a successful trader can provide. Absolutely, bro. That's why I did this job. Like, also because I like it, but that helps a lot. But one of the main reasons, like, I dropped out of school when I was 11, so I had to figure out what the fuck am I gonna do. And I found out very quickly that I do not like working for other people. And it's like, hey, financial markets. And I just kind of didn't look back. Yep, cost of living is practically the same. Yeah, it's practically the same, but you don't pay taxes. Beautiful. Um, but yeah, it depends what my quality of life is. I did see, like, even on Airbnb, the fucking you just go rent for a month for like 1,000 is like a nice apartment. It's not bad at all. Corporate salaries are really good compared to it. A manager plus positions even accommodate for housing. You cannot be for real at 11. Yeah, I was a troubled child, and let's just say the school system didn't really work for me. So I had to figure out what the fuck else I was gonna do. So literally, I remember that in the Netherlands, like, when you turn 15, you can start working. So literally the week that I turned 15, I was like working at Domino's because my brother worked there. And then the year after, I was in another kitchen where they paid me slightly more, but still kind of ridiculous how little it can pay. And then better. Guys, believe me when I also say this. This guy is among the best U.S. accent speakers compared to Dutchies that have PhDs. Zero giveaway from being from the Netherlands. It's because you gotta understand. I was better at speaking English when I was still in school than the people who were teaching English, right? So if you learn how to speak English from someone who doesn't really know how to speak it and they just learned it from a textbook, versus me having learned it from TV shows and speaking to Americans, it's a different kind of thing. Life here is a big vibes. Only thing is the escorts all over. Hard time finding a wifey here. Yeah, you don't find the wifey on Dubai. You find them online and then you ship them to 2 to 3 business days, bro. Like, I met my girlfriend playing video games, bro. She clears everybody, bro. We were the VPN thing is annoying, bro. How romantic, bro. There, we got years and years of romance ahead of us. Like, don't worry too much about trying to be romantic at the start, bro. Just find someone you fuck with, and then get there, Yeah, the VPN sounds annoying. I got consulted by 2 friends who met on Apex Legends. Yeah, they want to get married. Absolutely, bro. Because the beautiful thing is you get you're if you're trying to do like a dating app, right? The problem is the incentives are not aligned, right? And what ends up happening is you're gonna sit in this little pile of like 50 other people, and then you somehow gotta make yourself stand out, but that you can't really do that over text. It makes no sense, right? And people don't want the same thing. Gaming is a universal language to connect, yeah. And the bigger thing is it doesn't have to be gaming. The point is that you get a thing to do that you both enjoy that's not about the other person, and then you just do it together. Right? So why do people get in relationships with their like coworkers and shit? It's because they go to the same place, right? Unplanned in a lot of cases, and then they bump uglies, right? Yeah, I met someone I actually have stuff in common with, and the big thing is that we have the same values. We want the same things out of life, right? For the most part. And as long as you want to make that work, then you're chilling. I want a trader wife so we can take people's liquidities together. That's so romantic. That's beautiful, bro. Yeah, dating apps ain't it. Man, pigeon dropping heat at 3:30 a.m. It's only 1:30 a.m. here. You know how life is. Stuff you don't like, the more you get used to it, the more you'll miss it in your life if you don't have it. Not sure what makes that. I don't know. Yeah, just appreciate life. The coworker example. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. But I feel like depending on what your job is, it might just be Stockholm syndrome. Pitch, come and tell Asa to bid till 30K. I can just tell him I'm gonna go short and my TP is 30K. That would be pretty funny. I can just tell him I'm short 100 Bitcoin right now till 30K tomorrow. See ya, bud. Because I know he's in a long. That would be pretty funny. But like at the end of the day, right? If you're trying to force shit, it's just not gonna work, right? But if you just let things happen, but you do it with intention, which is kind of like it's a weird middle ground. But he's gonna have a second night shift, and that absolutely. You just have a nice middle ground. You don't try to push it, and the biggest thing biggest difference for me was I watched this guy Dr. K from Healthy Gamer. It's he's like some Harvard psychiatrist. He makes fucking videos on YouTube now and Twitch streams or whatever. And one of the biggest things I got from him was I was watching. He would interview Twitch streamers and talk to them about mental health or whatever. Kind of it shows that even these people that people put on pedestals are people, right? And you get to just hear about their things. And there was this one interview that stood out to me. It's this thing she said that so some female streamer that said people would always girlfriend zone her. So we always see guys talking about getting friend zoned. But she was always getting girlfriend zoned. People wanted to kind of force relationship. You love Dr. K? Hell yeah, bro. I love Dr. K, bro. He's great. But she would always get girlfriend zoned. And I was like, that's a really good fucking perspective to have on this, because people always think like trying to make this relationship work, but it's like a two-person thing, right? So I stopped trying to become people's girlfriend. I just started saying like, hey, I like this person, let's just be friends with this person. And maybe if I vibe with them more than that, I can be like, hey, I got this little pile of feelings, and what are we gonna do with that? And worst case, they say, hey, I don't want this shit. Get that shit out of here, and then we get that shit out of here, and then you have a friendship. And maybe they don't say get that shit out of here. Maybe they reciprocate it, and then very simply, you have a relationship. His ADHD streams are really helpful. Yeah, I mean, it's Dr. K is fantastic, man. Take notes from Pigeon Riz. Now it helps if you have a jawline like this, and a voice is beautiful and soothing. No, but it's like also just don't buy the fucking the shit that 80% of girls only want 20% of guys or some shit like that. You should see like if you The people who say that they don't go outside, they've never just walked outside and seen the fucking ugliest dude with a 7. The people who say that they haven't seen fucking Sniper Rules boyfriend or whatever the fuck it was. And this is exactly how law of attraction works, not like manifesting shit. If there's any, like, yeah, you just fucking, if you vibe with this person and you want the same things out of life, you can just like, hey, let's do this. Right? Doesn't need to be this complicated. Just go there to have a good time, not to find yourself a girlfriend because you want a girlfriend because you think you need a girlfriend. Okay. Dude, women love guys who are passionate about things, who can dedicate to the things they're passionate about. The most attractive. Just do your thing. Just vibe. Just be. Just don't be so concerned. Like when people say just be yourself, they mean don't try to be something you're not. You know. Like it's just live the life you want to live, because if you're not going to be yourself, right, if you're going to try to be a different person, then that wouldn't be a good relationship to begin with, right? Because they'd be attracted to the wrong person, because that's not you. Yeah, you don't want to be a goal-lacking, pamper-needing kid, so to speak. Yeah, that's definitely get up, get your stuff together, and the rest will follow suit. I do agree, but at the same time, there's also obviously a bit of a movement in the past years of people thinking they need to fix everything before they're ready for a relationship or some shit like that. Right? Like, oh, I need to deal with this and this first before I can have a relationship. You see a lot of that now too, and I'm also just like, we're human, we're social creatures. We cannot do everything alone, right? Like it's good to want to improve yourself, but at the end of the day, like, you don't need to do that alone, right? I learned how to trade, and guess what? I traded alongside Foxy. We got better together, right? I have things about myself that I want to improve on, and I can do that together with my girlfriend instead of being like, oh, I can't have a girlfriend because I'm not perfect. Yeah, I fall into that category. I think serious, so I want to be able to afford the financial stability for the long term. I mean, yeah, that's a part of it. But if you're talking about like, hey, I want if you say a relationship's important to you, for example, right? You want a partner, right? You want a wife and kids, for example. You might say, hey, I want to be financially stable enough to be able to provide for them, right? But you don't need to wait till you can do that to get a partner, right? Because you wouldn't want a partner who is just with you because you can provide that, right? You want someone who likes you for you, and uh, it's a beautiful thing from if you know Alex Ramosi. Like he's a big business guy. He posts a lot of stuff on there. I think he's doing I think he's up to 250 mil now or some shit. Insane. But he didn't like he did good. I think he did like he was plateauing around 3 million, I think he mentioned. And then the year he met his wife and they started working together, he did 27 million. And he broke that plateau. Some shit like that. Like, you don't need to do that shit alone. Right? To be able to grow with someone is the most beautiful thing. I do agree. But hey, this has been a beautiful stream, guys, and I appreciate you guys coming to hang out and having this conversation with me. It is getting very late, so I am gonna hop off here in just a second. But again, thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. Appreciate it. I tend to see that nowadays, not always, but not many peeps are willing to walk the walk, if you get my point. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. I hope to see you again in future streams. Make sure you're following. You get a little notification on Twitch when I go live, and I'll try to post about it as well. Appreciate you guys. See you. Have a lovely evening.